Hi, this is a tutorial on how to put on a decal. I'm going to show you a few different methods to line it up perfectly each and every time. I will also talk about the difference between dry and wet methods, along with some common troubleshooting tips. Just a side note before we begin, if you are sent here by someone you bought a decal from, I am not the person who sold it to you. I used to sell decals for 10 years, I do not sell decals anymore. But if you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section below. The first thing you should know is there's a difference between outdoor and indoor decals. Decals rated for outdoor has a stronger adhesive to withstand outdoor elements like weather. They can be used indoor, but it may damage painted walls when you're removing it. Anything sold to you as a car decal usually is an outdoor decal. But you can stick it on any other item where there's no risk of pulling paint off of it. So things like laptops, gaming consoles, glass, mirrors, etc. Those are all okay. Decals rated for indoor use usually has a weaker adhesive, so it's easier to remove from walls. It doesn't last long outdoors, so try not to use indoor decals as an outdoor decal. Wash your hands before you begin, just in case you accidentally touch the decal. There are three main parts to a decal. There's the backing paper, the decal itself, and then the transfer tape. Transfer tape can be paper like this, which is great for wet applications. It can also be used for dry applications, or it can be a clear plastic or textured plastic like this, making it easier to see through. Best used for dry applications, not so much wet application. The backing paper can either be blue or white. Make sure the decal is stuck onto the transfer tape. Just peel one side at a time to check, and then just put it back down. If it's not stuck to the transfer tape, just put some pressure with your fingers like this to make it stick. If you're still having problems getting it to stick to the transfer tape, just place it on the table face down like this, scrape the back with a card or put pressure with your fingers, peel the backing paper at a tight angle, and that should help release it and make it stay on the transfer tape. You can install the decal either using a wet method or a dry method. We're going to focus on the dry method for this video, which works best for most decals, smaller details such as lettering or dots. It is beginner friendly, faster, and works with any transfer tape. Wet method is good for larger decals or decals with more solid sections where the risk of errors are higher. It does require more drying time. It is repositionable and works better with paper transfer tape. If you're unsure, I recommend going with the dry method. These are the most common reasons the decal won't stick. Sticking it onto unsuitable surfaces such as porous, rough or textured, dirty or greasy, stretchy or flexible, or a cold surface. If possible, installing it during 60 to 80 degrees temperature is ideal. To start, you're going to need scissors, painter's tape, a measuring tape, or preferably a sewing measuring tape like this because it's more flexible, a squeegee or a card, not sponsored by Costco, I wish I was, and isopropyl alcohol for cleaning most surfaces. But for painted walls, do not use alcohol, use just soap and water. And for your car's paint job, you can use a diluted version of the alcohol mix. It is recommended to dilute it with distilled water, but filtered water can work also. Here's the mixing ratio, just pause the video as needed. Here's a few other things to consider. Apply the decal onto unwaxed paint. Never use the alcohol near flames or sparks. Never use undiluted alcohol on paint. Don't put the decal on fresh paint, let the paint cure first. And do not use window cleaners. It leaves a residue that can cause the adhesive to weaken. Now for the actual installing. Go ahead and clean the surface. If you're using the undiluted alcohol, it should evaporate on its own, but if you're using soap and water or the diluted version, just dry it with a microfiber wipe. The method I'm going to show you is called the hinge method. There is two versions of this. There's the normal hinge, which is great for smaller decals or square shaped decals, and then there's the center hinge, which is great for long decals and bigger decals. I'll show you both, starting with the normal hinge. We're not going to separate the decal yet. What we're going to do is use the painter's tape to hold it in place in that position where you kinda want it. Step back, look at it, make sure it's where you want it. You could even use the measuring tape to make sure it's centered or even with whichever thing you want to line it up with. If you are trying to make it parallel to something or even with something, just make sure you use the straight parts of the decal itself and not the backing paper. The backing paper is usually not cut evenly, but the decal is. Since the decal isn't stuck yet, you can move it however you like and reposition it as needed until it's in the spot that you want. Step back, look at it, make sure it's where you want it to be. Once it is, you're going to add more painter's tape on one side just to hold it in place. Do one last check. My friends say I have OCD, I consider it being detail oriented. Now that we're sure the decal's where we want it, we're going to put more painter's tape on one side only so it can pivot like the hinge on a door. Go ahead and flip the decal over so you're looking at its backside. Slowly peel the backing paper off. Keep the backing paper at a tight angle as you're peeling, as this will help release the decal from the backing paper. Be careful not to touch the decal itself with your fingers. Once the backing paper is off, be careful bringing it back down. You don't want it to accidentally crease, so push it with your fingers just so it starts to curve back down. Once it starts to curve, go ahead and use the squeegee or a card or even your hands and go from side to side, slowly bring it all down, pressing the decal against the surface. Once the decal is completely on the surface, scrape it some more to try to get any air bubbles out that you see, but don't worry too much if you don't get them all out. Now we're going to take off the transfer tape. Peel it at a tight angle. This helps release the decal also. Take your time and make sure the decal is stuck onto the surface. If any parts of the decal is not stuck on, just push it back down and rub it really hard with your fingers to get it to stick. Once the transfer tape is off, firmly press all the corners of the decal down with your fingers. Give it some time for the adhesive to cure. Give it about a week or so before you try to wash or clean your car. If you need to clean the decal itself and it has sharp corners, try not to wipe against the corners, but go from the center out so you don't accidentally lift up the little sharp corners. This next method is the center hinge method. It works great for longer decals, bigger decals, or if you're just unsure, this is the safer method to use. You're going to do the same thing like the other method and place the decal however you want first, reposition as needed. Once it's where you want it to be, this is where it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to put a long piece of tape through the center. And when I say a long piece, go really long because it needs to be strong enough to secure the center so it can work as the hinge. And we're going to secure only one side, while the other side should be able to flip over. Flip the loose side over, have the scissors ready, peel off the backing paper, cut the backing paper off anywhere that you can reach it as close to the center hinge as you can. Be very careful not to scratch the surface with your scissors. After cutting it off, slide the decal slowly back onto the surface using your card or your squeegee. Scrape it some more to get as much air bubbles out as you can. And again, if you still see some, don't worry about it too much. Most air bubbles actually do go away by themselves after a few months. Take off the rest of the painter's tape, lift the remaining side, remove the backing paper off fully, and slowly slide it back down the same way you did earlier. Scrape it all one last time. Peel off the transfer tape, keeping it at a tight angle, making sure that the decal is stuck onto the surface. Press it back down as needed. Firmly press all the corners of the decal down with your fingers. And that's it. Once you understand the hinge method, feel free to put the tape however you prefer according to the size and shape of the decal. As long as one side fully holds and flips over like a hinge, you're good to go. Now for some common troubleshooting tips. I messed up this piece on purpose to replicate some of the issues you may run into. If you got a crease like this, there's a chance you can try to squeegee it out, but if it's already overlapping and there's no air in it, I'm gonna be real with you. There's a low chance that you could fix it, but let me show you a way. Lift the corners up slowly, make sure your hands are clean so that way you don't mess with that adhesive. Lift it enough where all the creases are out and then just push it back down and try to smooth it out with your fingers. It will stretch the area where you lifted it. There's a chance it might look like crap, but there's also a chance it might not. If you have an air bubble like this one though, where it's near a corner where their air could escape, this one's a little easier. You could just rub it out. Small tiny air bubbles like these will just go away by itself after a few weeks or a few months. Bigger ones like this one can be popped with a needle. Poke a tiny hole into his side and press down into the bubble, rubbing the air out. But try not to worry too much about the bubbles. As you could see in this one, there are some bubbles there, and then about 2-3 months later, there's no more. If you want to take the decal off, you can use your fingernails and just peel the corners up slowly. Or if it's really old and brittle and on a surface that's more scratch resistant like glass, you can just use a razor blade. If there's any adhesive residue left over, you can buy adhesive removers to take it off. If you sell decals, you are welcome to use my video to send to your customers. Please just don't upload it anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching.